Good morning. Not going to see my pretty face right now. What I wanted to do is update you on the wood heater. I've got it installed and it's working well. I got the chimney in. As is the usual declaration, don't mind the mess. I've got the cement board and insulation in around the areas that are most important, especially around the to shield for the stovepipe. It doesn't get all that hot yet. I'm not running it too hot, but it's cooking nicely. The fire brick is doing fine. It doesn't get all that hot on top because I have the fire brick on top, which is fine. And this bucket here is really just for wash water, and when we get a good amount of snow, I'll be bringing in snow to melt water there. So the stovepipe went fine. This ceiling, as I think I mentioned, is really quite thin. It's only about 1.5 inches maybe thick. And so on the roof, I had to put 2x4s in to actually hold the plate that's in there that supports the insulated chimney on the roof. But it worked out well. Now the one small hiccup that I had with this, modern stoves and chimneys, you'll see right here, there's a connection between two black pipes. And then there's this one here that's an adapter for the black pipe to the insulated pipe. Modern appliances have the crimped or the narrower attachment from the pipe going inside the next pipe down, so that if there's any condensation that drips down, it doesn't drip out side the pipe. It stays inside. Now this is an old style stove, and the connection at the back, I don't know if we can see, this connection here requires that the pipe goes outside. So the problem is then I need an outside diameter for this part here and an outside diameter for down there. I forgot to consider that and had already cut the pipe to fit the stove, and it was sitting here, but this piece here had the crimp at the top, and I'd already cut it because this is an odd length here, so I had to make that piece 15.5 inches long. When I realized that it was I'd cut it the wrong way, this piece was now too short. I couldn't cut it again, so I had to get another piece of pipe and recut it so that it's the outside diameter at both ends. Hopefully you can understand that. But today, what I want to do, hopefully, we'll take a little bit of a walk, Pepper and I. There's snow on the ground. It's about -6 maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna cut a tree down. Oh, there's Pepper. There she is. We'll go around the side here so you can see the stovepipe. There it is there at the top. working just fine, and it's nicely sticking above the roof of the trailer, so it'll have good draft that way. But today I want to go cut some more firewood. It was really kind of questionable whether I was going to get that wood stove in a timely fashion, and it's worked out well so far. But the perennial problem for me is that I'm always scrambling to get firewood each winter. And right now I'm just warming up my chainsaw, so it makes it easier to start later. But we'll go back here. Fortunately for me, I've got lots of dead trees that I can harvest. Best ones are ones like that. That's a dead tree back there. That's been dead for a while, and essentially that's standing firewood, because in this case, when it's standing up like that, it stays dry. Whereas it falls over, and then it starts to get damp. And I've got right here, this is an oak. It's very dead. I'll get that one down as well. Although the trunk itself won't be all that useful immediately. The branches certainly will be nice and dry, but the trunk, it's oak. It'll stay damp for a while. But back here we have lots of, even this one, it's really very, very dead. No bark on it. But I'll cut up, see if there's anything useful in there for firewood. That's an old hemlock. And there's cedar. That's going to be useful. And all sorts of stumps here that I'll be able to cut down. But there's one in particular I'm going to go after today. Now I have to remember where it is. Follow my own tracks. Just go through here several times now in the last little while, sorting out where I'm going to harvest trees. Something that's reasonably common here is, well, it seems to affect maples more than anything else, but we have this. All right, so somewhere up above ground level, either, birds have pecked away at it, or there's been a wound of some kind in the tree, and it rots in a particular spot, gets weak, and breaks. So you'll see right there, there is a hollow. Water gets in there and rots it out, and so we have this tipped over, and it's hung up in another tree up there. That's a hemlock. But this is a nice dead tree, so I'll be able to cut it down. Now what I'm going to do, now I'm going to cut higher than normal, partly because this is a bit of a tricky cut. But I'm going to cut it on this side, and then notch it on this side, and then cut from this side. And this should fold over this way. The ground is sloping down that way, so I'll just let it go that way. The As you can see here, the tree, the broken part is biased towards that way as well. And the only kind of tricky part here, or a thing that I'll have to be concerned with, is this piece splitting as I'm cutting, because there is kind of a split there. That could break away, and then this could slide towards me. I don't expect that to happen. It's hung up well up the top there, and what it will tend to want to do is just pendulum down towards the tree it's hung up on, and it might give out and it might roll over that way. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, but there is another tree in the way, so we'll see. It's not as dangerous as it might appear, but I do have to be careful. That's why I'm going to cut high, so I can stay upright. I'm not hunched over. Keeps me a little bit more agile and allows me to pay attention to the top part here more closely when I'm doing that. So that's the project for the next short while, and I'm going to switch to a different camera to tape that so we can both see what's going on. Pepper's over here looking for squirrels to dig up, and you see there's all sorts of trees that are broken, that are tipped over, that are rotten, certainly at the base, but it'll give me lots of firewood to work with for this year, and then I can maybe start to get ahead. So you'll see this is the tree that the one I'm going to cut is hung up on, way up there. That's the tree I'm going to cut, and then, but right here, there's another maple stump. It's broken off right there, and this piece here is actually the top of that one, and I'm going to cut that down first because it could interfere with where my main tree that I'm after is going to fall. So I'll get rid of that one and see how things work out. I'm gonna go set up the other camera, and we'll be back and you can watch the action. Well, I've got to move the camera because the branches are headed straight for it. But as you can see, this behaved pretty much like any hung up tree, and I like doing them mainly because once they behave correctly, they just kind of fall into one spot. They don't, tip over generally, so you can just cut it up in the one spot, not have to move very far. The one thing that I had to really pay attention to was not so much the tree falling on me, but branches at the top, either from this tree that I'm cutting down or from the hemlock that was hung up in, breaking off and clobbering me. That's the biggest danger. But it cut up just about the way I expected. The main trunk is useless. It's rotted quite a ways up. The branches I'll be able to use. But I don't mind bringing it down anyways because it's a hazard. If I'm not paying attention out here, it could come loose and hurt somebody. So getting rid of hung up trees is a good idea. But let me move the camera a bit. Not quite sure where. Maybe I'll go over here. I'll go up here. Well, the memory card filled up on the other camera, so back to my cell phone. But it gives better stuff anyways. You hear in the background, that's my generator. It's almost noon, so it's lunchtime, and I'm done cutting down trees. As you saw with the hung up tree that I did, worked out just fine. That's pretty much how they come down. It didn't roll off all at once like I had hoped, but the way it kind of falls into its own footprint is very typical, and I like that because then I don't have to walk very far. I just stand there and wait for it to fall down, and I cut the next piece, and it drops down right in front of me, and I cut it again. So that works out quite well. Now, I did cut down one of the dead trees near where I'm going to build a house. It's an old hemlock and probably not worth anything. And then I decided to tackle the good size oak tree that I pointed out earlier. And I've got it cut, but it's a heavy tree and it's dead calm today. So it's just sitting there, kind of leaned over. You see it right there. Let's see, get my finger in the camera. So I've got it cut, notched, and it'll be fine. It's a good sized tree, way up there. And with just a sniff of a breeze, it's going to go over. Every once in a while you can hear it crack. So I'm just going to leave it like this and let it fall on its own over lunchtime. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of a breeze, and away she goes. That one I think is reasonably solid, so we'll see how it goes. Oftentimes with a tree like this, the center's dead, and then it becomes just a bit trickier to predict when it's going to give out, because it's just the perimeter that's holding it together. And for a tree like this, especially with oaks, when they rot, they get the fibers kind of give out quite dramatically, really. With a like something like a softwood, they rot or they die, but the strands of wood kind of hold together. So as it goes over, you're relying on those strands to kind of guide it over rather than just kind of suddenly giving out all at once. With a dead oak like this, they tend to, when it's really dead like this one, and you can tell that because all the branches up at the top and most of the way down near the top there, all the branches are bare. So it's been dead for quite a while. Anyways, the wood gets very weak, and it'll just kind of give suddenly. That's something you have to watch out for. Something like, well, poplars. You get a really big poplar, especially in the wintertime. They're mostly water, and so what you're doing is cutting a giant popsicle, and they'll just shatter on you if it's really cold. And those things are frickin' dangerous in the wintertime. I cut down big ones out west, and they were kind of nice because once they came down, there was nothing to do. It was line clearing, and what you had to do is you had to cut all the branches, make everything flat. Well, with some of these giant BAM, we used to call them, great big aspens, some of them would be 4 feet in diameter. Well, they would be frozen solid, huge chunks of ice, and you could just touch them the wrong way with the blade, and they would just kind of just give out and collapse on you. And you always had to have a watcher with you when you're doing big ones like that, because they could help you anticipate the thing coming apart on you. But you get it over successfully, and they just shatter, and they're flat automatically, so you didn't have any other work to do. But holy smokes, are they dangerous to cut. This oak is fine. It's all solid, so it'll go over all at once, and then all those branches up at the top that are naked, they're immediately I can use those for firewood. The big trunk, as I said, that's going to take a while because oak takes a long time to dry, at least a couple of years. So even when they're dead like this, I expect I won't be able to use it until next year, if it's any good for firewood at all. But right now it is lunchtime, so I'll talk to you again soon.